I am Chris Ryan, excited to have with us right now Secretary of Transportation Pete Buttigieg here on the New Hampshire Today Show, joining us on the HRCU Better Not Bigger Banking guest line as he travels to the Granite State today in his official capacity as the Secretary of Transportation, highlighting key projects and also some of the work of individuals in the Granite State on infrastructure projects. Good morning, Secretary Buttigieg.
Good morning. Nice to be with you again.
Appreciate you joining us. And we are deep into politics at this point in time in the Granite State. However, Secretary Buttigieg cannot be engaging in the electioneering as a result of his role as Secretary of Transportation, which he joins us in his official capacity today. But we'll start with this. 4 years ago today, we're heading down the finish line of the First Nation presidential primary, Democratic primary in the Granite State. And of course, that has come under fire with DNC and Biden administration, moving South Carolina ahead in their preferred calendar. Tell us a little about your experience in New Hampshire as a candidate and the significance of the primary in your view and potentially moving forward.
Well, I'm having a lot of flashbacks, as you can imagine. As you noted, I can't talk about the campaign side of things while I'm in my official capacity. But like any citizen, I watch the TV, watch the news, and am reminded of what it was like 4 years ago, getting to know these communities, traveling around the Granite State, speaking with people about their aspirations for the future. And what is so rewarding to me right now is the chance to come back to the state as we're doing some of the things that we were talking about hoping to do years ago. A big part of that was infrastructure. I saw the infrastructure needs, the really unique infrastructure needs that are present around New Hampshire. I saw how roads, bridges, and other infrastructure asset have needed work for a long time. And now, thanks to the infrastructure package that President Biden led, that we're able to get through in Congress a couple of years ago, we now have the funding to actually do it. Really looking forward to seeing this Londonderry exit that I know has been needing work for a long time, getting updates on some of the other projects that we have funded and supported in New Hampshire, even just in this early stage of that infrastructure package, and spending some time at the Painters Union with workers who are getting the good paying jobs that come with all of this. The point of campaigning is that you get to govern, and in this administration, we have been able to do extraordinary work on the infrastructure front. I'm looking forward to the chance to highlight that and see what people are experiencing on the ground, what kind of support they need from the Department of Transportation.
Yeah, and certainly, the role of Iowa and New Hampshire led to this opportunity for you as Secretary of Transportation. And not all the time, obviously, do individuals end up doing well and winning the presidency as a result of the First Nation primary. But it can allow for individuals who have really good ideas, who are very capable individuals to then achieve greater roles. And certainly, your lead up to the campaigns and raising your brand across the country, and then the results led to being a part of the administration. I assume you acknowledge that, correct?
Yeah, look, all of that led to the opportunity to do the good work that I'm doing today on behalf of this administration. I think about how I got to know the state, really community by community, sometimes family by family, and so many people there who often skeptical at first heard me out, and watching that process play out is again something it's hard to believe was 4 years ago that all of that was going on. Now I love being able to return to New Hampshire, and this is how it felt last time when we were up in Berlin celebrating some good work that we're funding there, to be able to actually be bringing value from Washington. One of the things I always used to say back when I was a candidate was that the ideas aren't going to come from Washington, but more of the funding should. That's what we're actually doing with this infrastructure law. And look, year after year, administration after administration, there was a lot of talk, so much so that the so-called infrastructure weeks that they would hold here in Washington became something of a joke. And yet now we're actually doing it. We're actually making it happen, getting the funding out there, fixing the roads and bridges, and Some of those projects are just now being identified and will be built out in years to come. Some of them, including this new Diamond interchange on I-93 at exit 4A around Londonderry that I'm going to get a look at today. This work is fast underway. People are already getting good paying jobs on this work, and soon it's going to be something that people will be able to take advantage of in their commutes, in their travels. And again, that's why we worked so hard to get this done in the first place.
How would you describe, your philosophy when it comes to utilizing dollars for these projects, and also the kind of the mix that you use in regard to a focus, whether it's from an environmental perspective with electric vehicles, whether it's a highway perspective versus rail and other forms of transportation? How would you describe your philosophy on that?
Well, this infrastructure package really supports every form of transportation that you can think of. I mean, we're talking roads and bridges and highways, rail and transit, ports and airports, and other forms of infrastructure like the electric grid, like clean, safe drinking water and other things that are also infrastructure, but not transportation infrastructure. That said, even with this historic funding, we do have to make choices. We have to prioritize. There's not enough funding to do every single project that comes our way. And so the ones that win out tend to be ones that can demonstrate a combination of benefits. The number one thing we care about, of course, is safety. And safety really is at stake in some of these infrastructure projects when you can design a safer streetscape, build a better road, make sure a bridge is not in danger of collapsing. That, of course, has to be the top priority. But we see other benefits, too. We look for evidence of economic strength, transportation projects that are going to support job growth in the long run, not just the construction jobs building it, but the jobs that come with having a more efficient, safer, more affordable way to get to work, whether that's transit, driving, or anything else. And we're seeing a lot of climate benefits in terms of what you can do with good transportation policy, reduced emissions by reducing congestion, making it easier for people who choose to purchase an EV to charge them and get around in that. All of that adds up to cleaner air. So really, whether we're talking about safety and jobs, climate and equity, all kinds of priorities are in these projects, and the best projects are the ones that do something about all of them.
Pete Buttigieg joins us here on the HRCU Better Not Bigger Banking guest line on the New Hampshire Today show as he is in the Granite State today. I want to get to a couple of safety items before we talk about electric vehicles. Obviously, the train derailment in East Palestine, Ohio, drew a tremendous amount of interest, and that's a significant safety item that folks are obviously, concerned about. What changes have been made following that derailment, and what should folks know about that?
Well, in the wake of the East Palestine derailment, which I think was the first time many Americans came to realize that derailments have always happened on a daily basis in this country, and that, of course, is an unacceptable reality. We've taken a number of steps as a department, both to press the railroads to improve their safety practices and to use our authorities to make sure that there's information out about some of the technology that can help prevent some of these crashes, that also advances a rule we've been working on that the last administration froze around minimum crew size, which we think is a big safety issue. We've even pushed on sick leave because we know that workers who come to work healthy are going to be safer workers than workers who shouldn't really be at the workplace, but feel they have to come in because they don't have the right kind of sick leave. We're getting up to more than 80% of railroad workers now have paid sick leave in the Class 1 railroads. But I got to say this, it has been almost 1 year since America saw those images out of Ohio, and we still have not had action in Congress on the Bipartisan Railway Safety Act. Look, we're doing everything we can as a department with the law as it stands, but we really need Congress to come through on that Bipartisan Railway Safety Act. And a lot of members of Congress who were very quick to get on TV, even to try to score political points off the pain of what the people of East Palestine went through, still haven't gone on the record to say whether they're for or against this Railway Safety Act that would toughen enforcement against railroads and take other measures, railroads with safety violations, and take other measures to make these railroads safer. Now is the time for action. I really don't think that Congress should allow us to get to the 1 year mark since that crash and still have not done anything.
Plane safety has also been at the forefront, following not just images from Japan that we saw days ago, but also the Boeing 737 MAX 9, which was grounded as a result of an issue with Alaskan Airlines. Generally on Boeing and also on that specific model. What is your sense there in regard to safety? Are you pleased with the steps that Boeing is taking on that specific plane and more generally their product?
Well, like all Americans, I'm very, very concerned about what happened with this incident. Fortunately, everybody got off of that plane safely, and that's a testament to the professionalism of the crew that was confronted with that situation. But that should never happen in the first place, which is what I communicated to the leadership of Boeing. FAA is investigating and putting all of the planes in this category through a process that not one of them will return to service until it has satisfied an extremely rigorous set of inspections. And it does raise broader questions that are going to take longer to resolve, both as the NTSB, the National Transportation Safety Board, independently does its investigation, and as the FAA looks at the bigger picture of manufacturing questions around Boeing to make sure that there is 100% confidence. We have built up an extraordinary safety record as a country. If you just stop and think about it, the fact that flying through the air is the safest way to travel is an extraordinary thing. That didn't just happen, and that is never something to take for granted. So we are going to be pressing to make sure that Boeing meets all of its marks from a safety perspective. The other thing I would say is that, with the Alaska Air and that fiery and terrifying set of images from Japan, even though those are very different situations, what they have in common is the professionalism of flight crews that saved people's lives. And as I'm getting ready to step on an airliner in a few minutes to come up to New Hampshire, one thing I know every time I get on an airplane is the people from air traffic controllers working for our FAA, to the pilots and the flight attendants, the people who make it possible for us to safely travel through the sky and get to our loved ones, get to work, get to where we're going.
Yeah, it's one of the things that obviously has jumped out over these last couple of circumstances is that we have an expectation that air travel is consistently safety because it is consistently safe. So these types of things certainly jump out. Final thing I want to ask you about is yesterday, it was announced by the Biden administration that $623 million in grants were being pushed out to help build an electric vehicle charging network across the nation. There's been consistent complaints in New Hampshire about the lack of electric vehicle charging stations. And you said that America led the arrival of the automotive era, and now you have a chance to lead the world in the EV revolution. What is your sense about when we'll see more EV charging stations? And also the affordability aspect has been discussed a lot by consumers, and even Dean Phillips, who is running for president on the Democratic side, has said that the EV future is not necessarily a reality, and that there will be more of a focus on hybrid vehicles as opposed to electric vehicles in the marketplace.
Well, hybrids are definitely part of the story as we go through this transition. I think the most important thing to recognize is that the automotive industry is going electric. And if America does not lead, then American workers will be left out. I take this pretty personally because I come from a northern Indiana community that revolved around the auto industry and then lost our automaker because it couldn't keep up with the times. We're not going to let that happen this time. And while the last administration allowed China to build an advantage in the EV market, we're making sure that American workers and an America-powered EV revolution carries the day. Now, that is the work of a decade, and there's a lot of work to be done. And as you note, there's really two things that are key to this. One is prices. More Americans will be able to take advantage of EVs as the prices come down. According to the latest Kelley Blue Book averages, they are within about 4% on average in terms of the purchase price. That's very encouraging because often you can make that up and come out ahead. Because you wind up spending less on powering your car than you would have spent on gas or diesel. But the other thing is you got to know that you're able to charge it when you need to. Now, if you have a single-family home with a garage, then an ordinary wall plug is all the charging infrastructure you may need. And if you drive less than, let's say, 100 or 200 miles a day, maybe you're all set. But many Americans don't necessarily have a garage sitting there. Many Americans travel longer distances for jobs or for where they're headed. And so we need to make sure that chargers are available when you need them, just as I knew when we were traveling around New Hampshire 4 years ago so many different times that there was always going to be a gas station when we needed it. That is something that we are fast at work, including using federal dollars to help make sure Americans find those chargers where they need them. Every state, including New Hampshire, has benefited from the formula dollars that we're putting out. And we're trying to fill in the gaps in the network so that we can reach President Biden's vision of having 500,000 charging points, chargers available around the country by the end of this decade, because we also are pursuing a goal where by the end of this decade, about half of all the new cars that Americans are buying are EVs.
Secretary Buttigieg, as always, appreciate your time. Look forward to talking again soon.
Same here. Thanks for having me back.
Pete Buttigieg joining us on the HRC You Better Not Bigger Banking guest line. He's in New Hampshire today touting some infrastructure projects, including the 4A exit off of I-93. I am Chris Ryan. This is New Hampshire Today.